The DC Universe is in a bit of a weird stage right now. From the looks of it, much of the established franchise is going to be removed for a potential reboot. Headed by James Gunn, this fresh start could be what the franchise needs, but it's still quite hazy. James Gunn has remained a bit secretive about his intentions, but recently dropped a big clue. Let's dive into the video to learn more. First off, Gunn has dropped a major clue for the future of the DCU. The DC Universe has gone through a massive amount of course corrections over its history, both big and small. These changes have essentially stopped the universe from having its own identity. Many fans believed that DC executives' tendency to try to replicate Marvel's success without putting in any of the hard work and effort that Feige showcased to create the MCU's foundation was bound to lead to failure. But with James Gunn now in charge, there's hope for the future. Fans have been eager to know just what he's got cooking for the DCU, but the writer-director has remained relatively secretive about his plans. It's clear that the plan Gunn and Safran have is still very much in the early stages. That said, James did drop a bit of a hint about what the inevitable vision for his shared universe will look like. Taking to Twitter, Gunn stated he understands there are a few drawbacks to the current transitional period the DCU is going through, but they'll be overcome by the sheer creative possibilities and opportunities they will unlock in DC afterward. He also made sure to add that he knew he wasn't going to make every single person happy with the steps they're making, but they can promise that everything they're doing will be in favor of the story and the service of the DC characters. He closed the tweet by saying that we've all cherished these characters our whole lives, and it's clear that DC is finally going to start doing them justice. It's a bittersweet feeling, but we've got to say, we're excited. Next, what does this mean for DC's current slate of films? It's clear that there are a ton of changes coming to the DC universe very soon, and from the looks of it, many of these will be changing the status quo. Gunn's approach seems to be to start from scratch, as tough as that may be. The problem in all this is that any films and characters that aren't able to fit into his plan will likely be put on the back burner for now. This might be a difficult thing for fans to accept, though. The Wonder Woman and Aquaman films aren't the best ever, but many do enjoy them. More importantly, Affleck's Batman and Cavill's Superman are probably the two best things that the DCU has given to us. The fact that we won't be getting to see them return to these roles is definitely a bummer. Such a big change right from the get-go might cause fans to become sour about this new cinematic universe before it even starts, especially after we just got the news a few weeks ago that Henry might possibly be returning to the cinematic universe. To hear now that they're going in a different direction just stings a bit. A fan suggested that the studio should have honored what they said and could have given a final film to us with Henry as Superman. This could have served as both a send-off for the previous DC universe, but may have even somehow linked to the new one Gunn was creating. Unfortunately, it seems this will end up being a pipe dream for most of us. Plus, could this new DC plan make it similar to Marvel? It's clear that the DC universe has constantly been trying to follow in Marvel's footsteps, but they've always been failing at it. Much of this is because the execs at WB never really had the patience to take the time to flesh out their universe properly from the start. They decided to jump on the bandwagon a bit late, and instead of having a proper Phase 1 plan where all the members of the Justice League got introduced, they had a mishmash of movies that felt like a pain to watch, especially because they'd someone like Snyder attached to them. By completely clearing the DCU, Gunn might actually be making a way for a brand new universe that's going to more closely follow the MCU, the right way this time. Say what you will about Marvel movies, it's clear that as a franchise and brand, they're unbeatable. They've got a reputation for being planned for the long term, and even with some less than stellar phases, the recent fourth one for example, it's obvious they've got a plan that will go on for many years in the future. Something like this is exactly what the DCU needs. James Gunn may be able to play a role similar to Kevin Feige's, allowing for a consistent narrative storyline being followed. We think Gunn may be working on creating this basic structure as we speak. Then, they'll figure out the characters that are needed and what projects may be able to fit into their plan. After that, the development of the films should start. Moving on, here's what Shazam star Zachary Levi had to say about the current state of the DCU. It's quite clear that no one really knows just who's on the chopping block and who isn't. When asked about what the future of his character is, Zachary Levi had a couple of interesting words to share. The actor stated that most people are probably aware of just who James Gunn is. Levi said that it was cool to have him as a boss now. What makes it even cooler is that they're pretty great friends too. He also mentioned Peter Safran, who's James's partner and Levi's producer. Given all of that, the actor seemed pretty confident confident that Shazam would indeed have some future in the upcoming DCU slate of films. He mentioned that both Peter and James are his friends, but if they don't have a plan for him, they wouldn't be his friends anymore. Still, if DC is going for a complete reboot, we're finding it hard to think how Shazam will survive. Some possibilities include the fact that the series might continue to get movies that exist outside of the new DCU, kind of like the Batman or Joker movies. It'd be a decent compromise since Shazam films have generally been well liked by audiences, so it's not like the studio would be losing money doing this. Alternatively, the two movies might be retroactively added to the new DCU, and everyone at DC will just ask us to pretend that Levi is supposed to be the Shazam from Gunn's universe from the start. Hey, if it works, it works. We should also mention, what does the new DCU mean for Suicide Squad and Peacemaker? Peacemaker and the new Suicide Squad film have been two of the better outings that DC has had recently. It's no surprise that this was the case, considering the fact that Gunn was attached to both of these projects. It's clear, though, that both of these are set in the old DC universe. If we're really going to start from scratch, would James have to bid farewell to both of these great series? Considering even Wonder Woman 3 was trashed and Aquaman 2 could very likely be Momoa's final appearance as the character, we think Peacemaker and Suicide Squad are still very much in danger. The new DC changes are being done to distinguish the upcoming universe from the Snyderverse, but both Peacemaker and Suicide Squad are very much linked to the Snyderverse, and so it might be tough to simply write them off as being set in the new DCU. We think if James is truly serious about starting his universe right, he might need to cancel Peacemaker after its second season, and maybe even cancel Suicide Squad too. As sad as it may be, especially considering how he's personally attached to these projects, it's the only way to avoid creating an even more complicated and weird universe. Though we do hope that Gunn is able to come up with some solution that incorporates both these projects and is still able to start the DCU from scratch. Up next, James Gunn debunks bogus claims he hates Henry Cavill. James is fairly active on Twitter, and every now and again, he gets a message that's so baffling it leaves us in awe. Recently, someone outright stated that Gunn didn't like Henry Cavill, and that's the reason why he didn't give the star a sequel to the Man of Steel movie. Another commentator asked James to reply on the subject, and Gunn simply mentioned, "Sure, false." After this, the original poster said that even more people reached out to them and said that James didn't have the best opinion of Henry, and that they were only reporting what they'd heard. Gunn replied to this in a hilarious manner. James stated that it was quite weird. The poster seemed to be plugged in with all the best sources. James continued that he also had 40 people reach out to him to say that the original poster had just been kicked out of his mother's basement, and that James felt sorry for him. As funny as it may be, it's obvious that James is telling people not to listen to random people on Twitter who are clearly trying to chase clout. This transitionary period that DC is going through is a bit uncertain, but that doesn't mean we should outright believe every single thing that someone is saying because they had people reach out to them. Finally, can the DCU somehow include Henry's Superman? While it's obvious that Gunn doesn't actually hate Henry, some people still like to paint such a picture. The internet has tons of misinformation running rampant, and it's no surprise to us that this is something that affects Hollywood figures too. It's probably why James felt the need to come out and debunk this rumor himself. It seems tough for Henry to ever return to the role of Superman in the new DCU. His cameo in Black Adam might be the final time we ever get to see him reprise the character. Gunn has announced that the new DCU will move forward with a new actor who'll be cast to play a younger Superman. If we're lucky, we may end up getting a cameo in the future, but even that seems tough at this point. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on James' plan for the new DCU? Comment below, give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.